welcome back to another check-in. I hope you've all had an amazing week. Before I jump in and talk to you about all of my data from the last 2 weeks and how everything is going with my competition prep, which is in 10 weeks time. I have another competition, a pro show, the Hurricane Pro, which is in St. Pete, Florida. I guess I'll start with the obvious. Yeah, I'm sitting in a walk-in robe. So this week has just been, actually the last couple of weeks have just been like, doop, 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 doop. Crazy, like no other way to describe it. So going back a couple of weeks, I've got to pull up the dates here just so I can get my bearings. I had intended on or was flying to Texas. So I was meeting with a dear friend of mine whom I haven't seen in many months. We've both been so extremely busy, but we had planned many months ago to get baptized. So she's been baptized before, wanted to kind of renew her faith, and I never had. And I think some of you know or probably listened to my journey and my walk with God. And it has just been nothing short of a miracle. But with all of the change and travel and everything that's been going on, my goodness. So where to start? So I have been listing my house for sale. Obviously, I'm trying to get back to Tampa so that I can live with Sam, which would be wonderful. I think he is absolutely tired and exhausted of driving back and forth between Tampa and Fort Lauderdale. It's like a 4.5 hour drive, which apparently is now easy for him. Just like, I don't have 8 hours a week to give. But anyhow, in that process, I guess I decided that one of the rooms, which is where I usually have my office set up, I was like, you know what? I'll stage it as a bedroom. I'll just get everything out. I'll move out just so it's so much easier to kind of show you the house when you're not like having to madly clean it and like make it perfect every time somebody comes through. So you guys, if you've sold a house before, you know the struggle and the pain. It's just like, you'll get 5 minutes notice. Hey, do you mind if someone stops by this afternoon? And I'm like, well, I guess it's fine. So I'm quite happy to kind of be out and like finally knowing that there is some stability. But I had bought all this new furniture to stage and it looked beautiful. And in the process, I was like, okay, I'll move my office furniture just into the walk-in robe until I have an opportunity to, get a truck and have the removalists come and move out some of like the personal items, including my office furniture. Before, time just got away from me, and next thing you know, I had to fly to Texas and it just kind of got stuck in here. And then, when we got back, which I'm going to share the whole story of Texas here with you in a minute, I just have not had a chance to do it. So here we are. Like I've been meaning to even just maybe move it back out into, I don't know, the living area or something, because it's pretty big and heavy. I've got like, I don't know, lights and, stuff. But I was like, you know what? I really don't have the energy for this right now. I'm just going to be real. Like, I'm going to hop on and share just the frustrations of what I'm doing right now. So the last 2 weeks, or this week and last week, all of my client check-ins have been sitting right here. I'm like, guys, you're going to see me in my grandma sweater. I'm going to have like my dressing gown and fluffy panda slippers on or something. It has just been... It's been comical. But anyway, I want to talk to you a little bit about, I guess, the Texas trip. So it was, first off, just amazing. I haven't seen Shelley in many, many months. So we got to catch up for 4 days, which was great. Lots of good conversations, lots of time catching up, a couple of good workouts, and then of course our baptism at the Life Fellowship Church on Sunday. So I didn't know anybody from this church, but they were so kind and so welcoming, and I really hope that I get an opportunity to go back and spend some more time with the people there, because it just, it felt so comfortable and so accepting. So I know we all had a really, really wonderful time. But on Saturday, it was like my first day of the week where I was like, okay, I just know I need it. There's a couple of work obligations that I always have to do in the mornings on Saturdays. And then I'm like, okay, I've got 4 or 5 hours to myself. Like, what am I going to do? And that usually like includes my training and stuff. So I was all ready for a little bit of time off, and I'm getting phone calls from my realtor, and they're like, oh, the condo sold. We need an answer. Can you do this? Can you do this? And I'm just like, can I just have a day? So, I'm trying to like have a nice time, with my friends and relax and get caught up. And, I think I ended up spending like 3 hours on Saturday signing contracts and just doing all the stuff that you do with the closing, or I guess the sale of a home. So It was not a weekend, I guess, without stress, but it never would be. I don't think I've had one of those weekends in a long time. But then after, I guess, the baptism on Sunday, I had intended on flying home. I think our flight was at like 8 p.m., which was intended to be that way. I was like, I want to, get back, enjoy the afternoon, do nothing, hopefully spend some more time since it was such a limited and short trip. And I start getting text notifications from Spirit Airline. My eye is twitching right now as I think about these guys. And it was like, oh, your flight's been delayed. And I'm like, okay, it's just an hour or so, whatever, we'll still get home before midnight. That's fine. I normally go to bed at midnight anyways, or around that time. I will be fine for my big Monday morning. So as the afternoon kind of, rolls along, I keep getting more notifications and it keeps pushing back by like an hour and another hour and another hour. So from what was an 8 p.m. flight, I think the last notification that we got at about 8:30 or 9 p.m. was your flight's now due to leave at 2 a.m. So for the record, just to kind of paint the picture here, there was a hurricane in Florida as well around that time. So I think initially all the flights into Florida were just kaput. Like there was no one going in, no one going out. So I think initially that was where all the delays came from. But our flight, it wasn't delayed because of any traffic or any weather. We couldn't get a flight attendant. So I think the pilots were there, one of the other flight attendants was ready to go, but because of the number of passengers on board, I guess a legality is they need to have 2 hosts or 2 flight attendants. And I guess they couldn't get somebody. So we were all there at the airport at like 1 a.m., like waiting. And eventually at like, 1:45, they were like, and attention passengers, your flight has been cancelled. And we just heard like the Miami flights all get cancelled. And then it was the Fort Lauderdale flight. So we were just like, and at this point, we're like 45-minute Uber ride away from where we were staying. So I had to get back in an Uber. It's like now 3 a.m. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to work tomorrow. I don't even know what I'm going to do. So then they lose our luggage. So we've gotten down to the baggage claim because we had one piece of checked luggage. And the lines were like yay long. I'm like, I'm not standing in this line. Like we could be here until 5 a.m. Look how many people there are. It was like multiple flights that had all been cancelled. So I just said to Sam, can you do without undies? So we just like left out, there was no one to talk to. We'd spent the whole day trying to do like a chat communication with their airport staff or the staff from Spirit. And not once did we get anyone like human communicate with us on their chat robot. And then I'd been on the phone 2 times in a row for 2 hours on hold before I got with somebody, only to tell me, oh yeah, sorry, the earliest flight we can get you on is Tuesday. So it's Sunday. They couldn't put us on a flight until Tuesday night. So I felt really bad for, there were a lot of women, I guess, on that flight, and it sounded like they might have all just been, on a holiday or something together vacationing. And, how hard would that have been for them to they don't have anywhere to go, or they've got to spend thousands of dollars or just a lot more money to find accommodation. And, who knows if they've got children or their jobs, or they've all, I just felt horrible for them. I was so grateful I had I was about to say keyboard. I had my laptop with me so I could at least work on those 2 days. And we stayed with friends. So they were like, yeah, you can come back and stay. That's fine. They were like, well, happy to have you. But yeah, I just felt so horrible for all the poor people that were just like, oh my God, what do we do? So that was such a drama. So it really threw out, I guess, just my whole work week. We were so tired on Monday. And then I looked at my schedule. I'm like, oh God, how are we going to do this? So just put my head down, but it definitely put me so behind in work, which is exactly why last week I didn't get to do an update for you, just due to all the delays and the travel and just how tired I was. I needed a few extra hours sleep. So Monday morning, when I would normally jump up and do my data entry, oh, you bet your bottom dollar I was sleeping until at least 8 a.m. And then that was all my training time gone, and I didn't have time to do a check-in. So yeah, I didn't actually have much data. Actually, I had to go back through and put all my entries in, if it's just to do this today. So yeah, I was a little bit behind, but look, these things happen. And I'm sure you guys have probably experienced this kind of, I don't know, drama, challenge, obstacle, whether it's related to flights or not. And it is so frustrating. But I think, we were angry in the moment of it, but I just kind of said to Sam, it's like, look, everybody has had this happen to them at least once in their life. Like, you just got to deal with it, go with the punches, and you can only do what you can do. So I just called everybody in our team and I'm like, okay, guys, well, things are going to be a little bit delayed this week, but we'll do our best. There's nothing I can do about it. I guess in terms of my prep, like, it was a little bit stressful because we also didn't have, I guess, the flexibility to kind of just go and train at, any random old gym either. I was so time poor. I'm so used to maybe giving myself like a 60-minute window to be in and out really quick. And the gym that my friends train at was probably a 20-minute drive away. But I know like their training obligations like have them in the gym for just much longer. It's more of a leisurely thing. It's something they go to do and enjoy. Whereas I have had to kind of put the pressure on to, move really quickly. So we ended up having to train in, I guess, the local community gym, which was pretty small. So there were just some other little, challenges relating to workouts, and especially when you're prepping. Like, normally I would have been like, whatever, it's no big deal. But, when you've got a time crunch and you're actually, on a schedule to compete at a certain show, it's a little bit more stressful. So I was like, all right, well, I guess we'll just make do with the equipment that we've got. And we actually did end up recording a video on Friday in another like hotel gym, a really rinky dink hotel gym for you, so that you can see like how I modify all the different exercises in that in that gym with crappy equipment. I was actually quite impressed with myself for coming up with just some helpful ways to like improve the range of motion on a leg extension, or if they don't have a hamstring curl, like what can you do to train your hamstrings. Often most small gyms don't have a seated hamstring curl or a prone curl. It's probably the most difficult exercise, it's probably the most difficult muscle group to train if you haven't got machines. So I definitely provide some great hacks using yoga blocks and just random things that you'll find in a gym to make the movements much more effective. So that'll probably come out next week. When you guys are seeing this, it'll be next week. So with that being said, I want to dive into my data because there's a little bit to go through. And then I also know there were several questions from you guys on YouTube on my last update. So we'll try and get through my data in the next 10 minutes. This will be a challenge, but I'm up for it. And then we'll do the Q&A. Okay, so let me start with my weight data. So I guess this weekend here, week 31 that I'm highlighting on the screen for you, this was the week prior when I had planned on traveling. So I was baptized on this day here, Sunday, the 4th of August. So this is kind of the week that I'm reviewing, and then we'll go over this most recent week as well. So you can see my average weekly weight came in at 141.2, and that was down by 1.8 pounds from the previous week, which was great. Things were moving along very nicely. So then into this last 7-day window, you can see at the beginning of the week, I weighed in at 141.8, but by the end of the week, you can see here I'm down to 139. So my average weekly rate of weight loss is 0.9 of a pound, which I'm very happy with. Again, if just to reiterate or remind you guys what my target rate of weight loss is at the moment, I am shooting for 0.8%, so about 1 pound a week. So I was very close to achieving that this past week, but I more than outdid myself the week before with my 1.8 pounds weight drop. So weight on the scale is moving great. Over here, if we look at my nutrition tracking data, so I'm just highlighting the last 2 weeks here on the screen for you. So you can see the week that I was away in Texas, again, I was actually very proud of myself for having 97% compliance, and 1493 was my average calorie intake. My protein was a little bit low. You can see here 92, and that was just an effect of a couple of days when we went out for dinner. So Saturday evening, for instance, we enjoyed just a beautiful meal with our friends, and my protein intake was a little bit low on that day. As a result, I think we chose to have carrot cake that evening. I'm definitely putting a picture of that up on the screen. Oh my God, it was amazing. But so that meant that my carbohydrates and my fats were a little bit higher, and I kind of pulled down my protein just to equate and balance calories. I mean, that's not ideal. I don't normally like to trade out my protein for a carb or fat for that matter. But, you know, if the rest of your week is really good, and in my case, you know, for the first 4 or 5 days of the week, I was pretty happy with those numbers. You know, it's not the end of the world. So I went down a little bit of my protein numbers there. Then looking over to my average fiber, again, this is a reflection of just traveling and not having access to like the things that I would normally have access to. So 14 grams is really low for me. That's down by almost 10 grams. So you can see why that week in particular, I lost much more weight than I needed to on the scale. That's not because I was in some crazy deficit. You know, I'd calculated my macros, you know, perfectly for what I knew I needed to achieve that amount of weight loss. I think we talked before, it's about 1 pound a week. The extra weight here that we're seeing is just the difference in me eating really high fiber the week prior at 25, or just normal, I should say, high fiber, and then dropping it down to 14. So once we arrived in Texas on Thursday, I still had to work. I have coaching clients Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So as soon as we got in, I was just straight back to my computer. So that day I didn't have an opportunity to go to a grocery store like I usually would if I had a bit more time on a weekend to pick up some things that I, you know, would like to eat that make my diet a bit more sustainable. But that went out the window. Career unfortunately had to come first. And then Saturday, this was the day where we went out for dinner, and I was like, I am not going to be concerned with my fiber. I really want to have a nice time with my friends and just enjoy what everybody wants to eat. And then Sunday, this is kind of a very impromptu day actually. Our calories on Sunday were, hang on, let me have I might have entered these 2 days in a little bit incorrect, because I know Saturday we went for dinner, but then Sunday we also had breakfast out. Or maybe I didn't get to eat that much on Sunday because of the travel. Here's me trying to reflect on what I did, because this is saying only 1,150 calories on Sunday. And I know we went out for breakfast just before church and before the baptism, and we'd ordered like some delicious crazy biscuit and BLT burger, and Sam and I shared that. But that might have been the only thing that I ate. Yeah, it might have been, because then we're at the baptism, like the church was all day, like until like 2 o'clock, I think we left. And then I remember just going back home, probably started packing, thinking, you know, I need to get things ready to, you know, to fly. And we wanted to leave by 5 for our flight. So yeah, I don't think I ate that day. Okay, so that's why my calories are so low. But on this particular day, I haven't tracked what my fiber was, but I can tell you now it was probably sub 10, because we ordered, as I was describing before, fried chicken, bacon, and some kind of like delicious honey, I don't know, mustard sauce with biscuits as the bun, which I'd never really tried those before. All FODMAPs, all delicious. Actually didn't wear it too much later, because I think thinking about the stacking effect when you are somebody that suffers with IBS, there's usually a certain amount of of FODMAP foods that you can tolerate. And then collectively over the course of the day, the more foods you eat, the more things that contain FODMAPs, then the symptoms become pretty prevalent. However, I think because I'd only eaten that one meal, I don't recall having any bad GI symptoms that day. So it must have just been a low enough quantity. So I got away with having like the seasonings and fried chicken, and then whatever they put in the biscuit and the gravy. I'm sure there were garlic and onion, but it was delicious. And then I had this amazing like turkey, chicken, some kind of bacon club sandwich, which was also awesome. And then we ordered pretzel buns, like little mini pretzel bites with like a beer batter cheese dip. It was so good. I actually ordered like a cinnamon dipper sauce, but they forgot to bring it out. So we just had the savory one, but it was so good. And again, I just had like one little bite, hence the 1,150 calories for one meal for the whole day. So you can see here, I also hit my protein targets. I'm wondering whether I had a protein shake or something in that afternoon, because I don't know whether that meal would have hit my protein like that. Anyway, neither here nor there. It was not my most beautiful couple of days, but it sure was beautiful in regards to everything else. So Overall, my calorie compliance is really good. This past week, I hit similar numbers. I was actually a little bit lower than the target that I had set for myself. So it was 1420, so I'm only 92% compliant. I think because of this day here that's not tracked, I'm not sure whether I came close to my targets or not. That was just a really busy day. So I think that was the day that we were traveling. We had another late evening flight and I had clients back to back all day. I think I squeezed in a workout in the morning and I knew I was just, okay, if you want to get through all the stuff before you get on your flight tonight at 8 p.m., then there is no stopping. So I'm pretty sure I just did my workout in the community gym, raced home, made myself a bowl of yogurt, and that's about all I can remember. I might have had a protein bar or something while I was working. So that was a really busy day. So I didn't track, but I don't know whether this would influence my calories in a more positive way or not. I assume probably not, just because we didn't have any time to go grocery shopping while we were there. So I wasn't eating like a crazy person. But you can see my protein compliance has definitely bounced back up. So I was at 126 grams on average per week, which is awesome. Really happy with that. 3 days here back to back up in the 130s and 140s, which, you know, for me, I think it's funny that I can say that now this number is good, because I used to be like the person that would have 180 to 190 grams easily. But, you know, I've really been intentional about changing my food habits to more balanced meals and, again, more balanced mindset around food. And it's just made me such a happier person. And knowing so, it's not having any detrimental effects on my, muscle growth goals either, or in the case of a deficit, muscle maintenance goals. But now, as we look at my dietary fiber this week, I've been much more cognizant of choosing high fiber foods. So, you know, if I do have something fun and tasty, as an example, this weekend for breakfast, we did hash browns, as the base for like a pulled pork and eggs Benedict dish that I had made for us here at home. I also did myself a serving of like stir-fried mixed veggies on the side, like with some good seasonings and whatnot. And, you know, it just brings my fiber up for that individual meal by like 5 or 6 grams. And I try to do that with every meal. And we've also been doing some delicious sandwiches with every veggie, and they're like stacked this high, like a turkey club with like a low-fat Miracle Whip, which is mayonnaise for anybody in Australia who is still listening along. So Miracle Whip is the fat-free mayonnaise, and yeah, like just some fat-free cheeses, and it is so freaking good. But this week, happy with my nutrition. I'm probably going to talk to you a little bit about what I'll do with my targets to make sure that I can continue to progress. Over to my subjective data. So you can see here the last week, that week coming back from Texas, my sleep number of hours. Look how low my sleep was. 31 was the total number of hours I got in for the whole week. It was crazy. I was so behind. So I had so many like really late nights going to bed at like 1 o'clock just to get myself back caught up from, I guess, sleeping in on Monday and then sleeping in a little bit on Wednesday when we got home, because we didn't get back home until like 3 as well. It was just wild. Makes me not want to travel anymore, that's for sure. So sleep score, really low. My muscle soreness hasn't been too bad the last couple of weeks, but with changing my exercise selection, just being in a small gym environment, we've had to make some kind of tweaks and changes, and you know, it targets your muscles slightly differently, and that is when you feel it. So anytime you have like new movements added to a new training program, I always go in with the expectation that I'm going to feel a little bit sore maybe for the first couple of weeks, and then it kind of subsides as your body adapts to that new stimulus. My energy levels have been pretty low just because of the low sleep. But this week, I don't know, hopefully it will come back up. I do and am moving some furniture, I guess, again this weekend. I have a removalist truck coming on Sunday, so I don't think that'll influence my sleep. But maybe if I'm packing late, who knows? I'm just going with the punches right now. And if I do need more sleep, I will take it. And my food focus has not been too bad. I think probably because I'm only 2 weeks back into dieting. I'm not on 1,100 calories like I have been at the end of my last fat loss phase. And I've also come off the back of 6 weeks of not being on very restricted calories too. So usually what happens is, you know, as you start to increase your calories, as you start to increase carbohydrates specifically, your leptin levels tend to kind of follow suit. But it's not always like a perfectly linear relationship. Sometimes there is a bit of a lag time as you finish a diet as to when your leptin levels return or restore to normal. Often it can depend on whether or not you've gained body fat back really quickly or not. Remember that leptin is secreted in our adipose tissues. So if you haven't gained any body fat and it's been like 6 weeks since you finished your diet and you've still got all those symptoms, I'm not surprised. It's one of the reasons why we get hungry in the first place. But eventually over time, and I think somewhere in the realm of like maybe 6 to 12 months, and again, this is a circumstance that I see quite a bit with clients that have lost a lot of body fat, and they started off maybe in the obese category with so many health conditions and just things that they are struggling with. As they lose body fat and they are getting healthier, you start to see over time that some of these symptoms through hormonal changes start to normalize again, and they start to have a response to the hormones that they're producing, which is good. So anyway, that is my subjective data. I didn't do it the week we're in Texas for obvious reasons. But then looking over at my training, so I guess the week of Texas, I came in at 10,000 steps. This past week, just over 10,000 steps, which I'm surprised I even got to that. There was a day where I had really low steps on Saturday. Just go, 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 go. We had a lot of things happening here. But if you look at my weekly energy expenditure for the last 2 weeks back to back, I have almost hit my target, which was 4,500 calories of energy expenditure across my resistance training, my cardio, and my walking. So collectively, it's almost 8 calories like within one another, which is crazy. Not intended to be that way. It's just how things panned out. But this does surprise me because last week, or like the last 7 days, I only got in one of my cardio sessions. So you can see here, I did a bike ride. It clocked in at 372 calories. I was meant to do another one earlier in the week, but y'all know I was sleeping Wednesday morning because I got home at 3. So that would normally be when I try and find, a moment to take myself and be on the bike. Didn't do it. So yeah, I guess some of these training sessions were just bigger sessions. I kind of added in a few extra movements to kind of help balance my energy balance that week. You can see here, this was a 120-minute workout, 678 calories. I never do this, guys. Like this is not normal for Holly. Normally my sessions are about, 60 to 85 minutes, when I'm training alone. So that's an unusual anomaly, but I kind of was aware that I hadn't gotten my cardio in. So I just did a few extra exercises on the muscle groups that I care about. I think there's an error here that's not meant to be 410, but anyhow, let me think, what was that? Thursday. I'm guessing that's probably closer to 110 minutes. Not 410, 538 calories for these, 544, 406. So slightly longer workouts because I only did 4, but generally much, much happier with, I guess, the fact that I'm getting back up into the 4,000s for my estimated energy expenditure. So my target was 4,500. So if we go over to my weekly adjustments, I guess we will be setting up my targets for this week. So I'm going to, do a bit of quick math for you, see how I go about adjusting my targets. So if at the moment we are currently at 1543, I would really like to be able to lose another 1 pound this week. And I think I'm probably a week or so away from hitting another plateau. So I want to get a little bit ahead. So let me just do some tweaking here. So 0.3 divided by 2.2046 times 1,000 times 5.9 divided by 7. Okay, I'm going to take off another 114 calories from this target. So 1543. That's going to bring me down to 1428. I'm not touching my protein. I don't really want to take away from my carbs because I like bread and I like wine. Definitely a good disciple here. Let me see what 50 brings us down to. Okay, maybe a little bit less for the fats. 47, what did I say? 1428. Okay, this is close enough. All right, 120 protein, 130 carb, and 47 grams of fat. And I'll still be shooting to have a nice high fiber diet to keep me satiated this week. I have some fun recipes that I've got, planned. Training. I will be doing 5 sessions again this week. I would like to get my running in, and there are some great questions coming on YouTube about running, which I will respond to in a moment. I'll do my cardio session and then on the bike, and then I'll still be shooting for around 10,000 steps. So that is my goal for this week. And again, I just want to point out, guys, this number here in the the total caloric expenditure number, 4,500 calories, This is just an estimate. It is not me saying that this is exactly how many calories I know to be true as what I'm burning. This is what my watch is estimating me to be burning. It's probably grossly inaccurate. It could be overestimating my energy expenditure throughout the week by, I don't know, up to 40%. What matters more is that over each week, I'm tracking my energy expenditure and I'm looking for relative changes. So if I'm using the same device, at least there is a consistent measurement error. So, if there are subtle changes from one week to the next, or I see a big noticeable change where I only do 2,000 calories of energy expenditure, on one week, we can kind of point to why I might not have lost weight on the scale. So that's kind of why I track those numbers. By the way, these sheets are available for download on my website. All you have to do is enter in your email and you can actually get a free copy of these sheets if you're interested in tracking your macros using our coaching team sheets. Okay, so I guess this past week we can see all of my information entered. I'm shooting for another 1 pound this week. We will see how we go. All right, let's pop over to YouTube. So this is last week's video. Okay, so a couple of people just saying that they really love these videos and that they're enjoying the tips and the experience. Some people supporting my show. Can't wait, you're gonna kill it. Yay, I hope so. Look, I'm so nervous. I still think I have too much chest and back and tris and bis. When I was watching some of the shows over, like every weekend there's a pro show on, and I have been much more attentive to like who are the top 3 or the top 6 girls. I still have so much more muscle in my biceps. I'm like, look, I know I worked so hard to get them, but I'm fine if I don't have them. So I'm like, please shrink, please shrink. So, I've talked before about my weekly set number and that I'm bringing that down to basically 0, which is not as fun for my training, but I'm also, this is a really specific goal. It's a short period of time. I'll be fine. I'll bring that all back in maybe early next year just as a maintenance volume. You're going to do great. Oh, so many supportive messages. Thank you guys. Okay, question. When you are eating out and estimating macros, are you in the moment inputting that data into your app? And if so, which one? So no, I don't. Usually what I do if I'm eating out is I'll take a look at what I have got for the day, like sometime earlier in the day, usually like my dinner's out. I kind of know about it. You've made a reservation ahead of time. So I'll just be more mindful of my food choices on that particular day. I'll always make sure that I've got lots of room to order, lots of protein options on the menu. So to be honest, I probably leave about 70 grams of protein if I'm going out for dinner, because then I can have a starter. I'll get prawns or scallops or I don't know, oysters or something, ahi tuna. And then I'll also order a main, which is relatively lean and high in protein. And that feels really satiating when I go out. And usually I love those types of foods anyway. But I'll also leave about maybe 50% of my carbohydrates and my fats so that I can have, I've got more selection options from a menu. And then when I get there, I kind of do a bit of mental math. So, I have been doing this for too many years. Sorry, and I'm a dietitian. We learn about, what's in everything at school. So I'll do mental math while I'm out. And then maybe later on when I get home, I'll pop that data in. However, as my calories get a little bit lower, so if I end up being down at 1100, which is very possible, I'm very sedentary, towards the end of the prep, I'll probably have to decide prior to going to the restaurant what I'm going to order. And it's not like I'm going to like a random new restaurant. Most of the time I'm choosing a restaurant that I have been going to for a long time. I know their menu back to front. I'm like, yes, I am having the scallops, and yes, I'm having some bread, and yes, I'm ordering this cocktail. Like I'll know kind of what I'm already going to have. So I'll plug that in, in the morning, say, and then I kind of, whatever I've got left is what I'll eat, throughout the day before we go out for dinner. So I don't normally do it real time, but when my calories do get low, there's less room for error. So then I have to do that. What device do I use? Well, funny you should ask. So I guess if many of you have been following me for a long time, I was obviously one of the founders of Carbon Diet Coach. However, we're in the middle of a negotiation. So I would have assumed that I'd still have access to that app, but I don't. Interesting. So I use MyFitnessPal at the moment. I use the premium version. It's pretty good. I don't like it anywhere near as much as my old app. I mean, I'm kind of, call me biased. I love the features that I had, but yeah, I use MyFitnessPal at the moment. It's got a really great food database. The only thing is that there are crowdsourced data, so you kind of have to sift through, some of the like random entries. But what they do to indicate which is like an official, it's being kind of cross-checked by somebody, I guess at MyFitnessPal, is they have a little green check mark. So just as an example, I've got some of my recipes on MyFitnessPal. So if you want to go in and see like Holly's turkey sandwich, I mean, you could type that in and you will probably be able to find it with the macros, all the ingredients and the quantities and the brands, and maybe even a picture if I was feeling super generous on that day. So that's super helpful. But it does not have like all of the features that I'm used to having. It certainly doesn't have the same features that I have in my tracking sheets. And then the next thing you had talked about was which device do you use to track your calories in resistance training? I'm tracking with an Apple Watch, and I use that for resistance and cardio. What is your favorite low-fat salad dressing? At the moment, I have Bolthouse in my refrigerator and Skinny Girl. The ones that I use most frequently are probably the cilantro lime Bolthouse, and I have been using their Caesar. It does have garlic and onion, but at this point, the alternatives are I'm not going to eat healthy foods anymore because I'm not going to just eat plain salad, lettuce, ingredients, or veggies on their own. So I kind of put up with a little bit of IBS when I'm prepping just so that I can have the lower calorie option. Otherwise, I just wouldn't be able to be compliant to my diet. I wouldn't enjoy it anymore. And then why would I do this? I want to enjoy what I do. So a little bit of IBS discomfort because they have garlic and onion in them. Again, that's not for everybody. This is just me. But Bolthouse does have some really good low calorie options. Skinny Girl as well. They have like a honey mustard. They have an Italian. They have like a raspberry vinaigrette, though that's probably my least favorite, but other people seem to enjoy that one. They have like a sesame one. So yeah, those would be the top two that I can think of at the moment. I also recently bought, I think it's French's, which is a US brand. I'm sorry if anyone's listening in from Australia, but French's do a honey mustard sauce, which I have been using on my turkey clubs. So good. It just adds a bit of flair and I guess makes me enjoy a giant salad. I would otherwise not eat it. I don't know, call me a child. I just really like big flavor, big taste. I don't know, I'm a foodie. So plain things are tough to eat. So I'll either season with salt, pepper, and lemon, or if I can find good seasonings or dressings, I will. Okay, scrolling down. I do have questions for you. In regards to fat loss, can weight loss steadily decline if the person is obese? Well, first off, yes. What's going to change the trajectory and maybe see some little, road bumps or maybe even trending back up would probably be the obvious one. Your calories are now higher if you've eaten more and miscalculated your macros, but it's not always the case. It might be an indication of increasing in fiber, increases in sodium, or increases in your training volume. If you're really trying to push super hard and you've added in more, even though you're probably burning more calories, sometimes the inflammatory response to training in that acute situation can often mask changes on the scale that are truly happening. So changes in your training can also cause your weight to kind of trend back up, but you can still be in a deficit. So that's the trick or the trouble with just using scale weight as your marker of progress. It should not be the only thing that we use. I think that's why it's so helpful to have a coach, somebody that can interpret all of your data for you and really tell you exactly why this happened, on this day, why this happened on this day, and so on and so forth. And also, can they maintain muscle while losing fat as they go from being obese to a healthy weight? Have a great week and thank you. You are so welcome. So yes, you can maintain your lean body mass as you go from being higher body fat to lower body fat. I think in that situation, I've probably explained this in other videos, but maybe in a different scenario. When you create a calorie deficit, your, I guess depending on your current body fat percentage, that really kind of helps create or tell the full story. So you create this deficit, and if you've got lots of body fat, you are at a lower risk of losing lean tissue than you are if you are really lean, because you've got adipose available. You've therefore got an energy reserve that your body can tap into to kind of help with continued movement, to help with continued activities of daily living. The one thing that is really important in that particular situation, though, is that you eat an adequate amount of protein, and that will help preserve your lean tissue as well. If you are putting yourself into, I guess, an energy deficit, you want to make sure that you've got all of the building blocks, specifically the protein, the amino acids, and specifically the amino acid leucine. You want to have lots of that available, going through your diet phase. So yes, you can, but there's going to be a tipping point where, you become a lean person and you don't have those same energy reserves anymore. And the consequence is now your risk for, your body looking for fuel and going, well, where am I going to get that from? This person doesn't have any, reserves anymore. Then it starts to go to, well, what else can I pull from? And now we're starting to look at some of that lean tissue, the unnecessary, the non-essential tissue, which is muscle, as a form of energy. So I hope that makes sense. Next question is, or someone's just saying, yes, please do the tutorial of how to make the most of crappy gym equipment. Yes, it is coming, and we have really crappy equipment. And the link to the cat feeder that I use, I think I talked about this in my last video. I still haven't unplugged it, guys. Oh my God. Without fail, religiously 7:30 every morning. It's like, Jerry, Pepper. Like, oh God. But anyhow, I will come and respond here and put that link in after this video. I haven't got it on hand right now, but it's a good one. I didn't ever find out if the DEXA scan included my shoulders, but I have to imagine that it was. I don't look at my biceps and think that I've gotten any larger, or my triceps. Where I personally see visually some changes, it's my shoulders. So I have to imagine that that's where some of that, I guess, increase in lean body mass in my arms came from. But maybe one day when I have a few minutes, I'll call up the office and ask. But I think that would be, that's my logical synopsis there. And then you said, which leads me to ask, does leg growth on the DEXA scale include your glutes as well? No, I think that would just be, from the hip joint down. I guess it probably depends on how you're laying and if you've squished your butt up your back or if it's squished out wide. But I think that it's probably just the hinge point on your hip bone. But I will ask, because that is also an interesting thing to consider. But, they did specifically point out for me, like left and right differences. So that could also incorporate left and right glute. These are all great questions. And I hope to get some answers for you when I have a moment. Right now, I'm just doing the behaviors and doing the work that I know is going to help me grow. And then we can find out all those minor details when I get a hot minute. But I know there's growth happening right now. It's good. Okay, question to running and lifting. Doesn't running impair maximum muscle growth because of the high recovery demand following your runs? I would love to know your stance on this. Greetings from Germany. So this is such a good question. I really appreciate it. I think the relationship is pretty nuanced and it probably depends on many factors. It probably relates back to the type of exercise that you're doing, the duration of exercise that you're doing, and probably the intensity. So they would be key things that I would want to know about if I was working with a client, or, in my case, I'm doing some running, before I could say, with any amount of confidence, okay, that is going to negatively impact your ability to grow muscle. So I guess there are a couple of studies, and again, I had to go back and dig through my archives. There are studies from 1980. There was a study by a group from Hickson et al. In 1980, that compared different training duration and intensity and I guess its effect on muscle growth. And it did show that there were some negative interferences when it came to incorporating running, especially at long duration, low intensity. Now, I guess moving forwards, there have been a lot more studies carried out in this area. And I think my synopsis is, and this is what I would tell a client, is that high intensity training may have less of an effect than training with, I guess, low intensity, long duration. So let me just say that one more time. So high intensity training may have less of an effect on, or a negative effect on, muscle growth than long duration, low intensity cardio. And the reason for that is this type of training increases your AMP kinase. This is AMP activated protein kinase. And that in turn inhibits mTOR signaling. And that is a key regulatory pathway for growing muscle.
On the flip side, that shorter duration, higher intensity, which is what I am doing, like I'm only doing, it's 2 miles that I run, or 2 to 3 miles, and I'm getting it done in just on 20 minutes. So it's pretty intense as well. Like my average heart rate is getting up around, 160 beats to 170 beats, but it's short and sweet. So I am not as concerned about it having a negative impact on my muscle growth, and especially knowing that it's specifically your legs as well. But based on the research that we have, I'm not too concerned. I think there's a lot of questions and discussion around the concurrent effect, and the recommendations are relatively clear. So what I would suggest is, number one, making sure that if you're a runner and you are concerned about also maintenance of your muscle, I would say make sure that you're getting an adequate amount of calories and you've got an adequate or an optimal amount of protein, just to help mitigate that potential breakdown of muscle. I would also say HIIT training, so high intensity interval training, or just HIIT training for short durations in general, so probably less than 30 minutes, might be better than the longer duration, lower intensity training. And then I would also consider separating your training, your resistance training, from your cardio, and having those on separate days to reduce that interference effect. So, for me, if I am going to do a run, it is usually on a non-training day. I'm not also lifting on the same day. Or if I absolutely have to, I would at least spread them out by several hours. I will do my resistance training first, because that's the thing that's most important to me. The running is just for fun, and it's also to burn some calories and help me create my deficit. So that is a secondary goal. The primary goal is maintenance of muscle, so that comes first. And then by spreading them out across the day, I'm also giving myself an opportunity to refuel after my training session, replenish, make sure that I've got some protein available, and that I can run with greater sense of confidence that I'm not going to be negatively influencing my muscle. So thank you for that question. I hope that answers that one. The next question is, how do you calculate your weekly set number for each muscle group? When you mention the 10 to 20 reference range, does this include sets that target secondary or tertiary muscle groups? For example, squatting, lunging, and hinging exercises will activate most muscles in the lower body. How do you determine whether to count these for sets for glutes, hamstrings, quads, or a combination of these? So I think first and foremost, for like squatting movements and single leg squatting movements like lunges or step ups, hamstrings are actually not really involved. So we're back down to just glutes and quads. Again, depending on your technique, sometimes your technique will favor quads, and other people, depending on your technique, might favor more glutes. I am a really forward-leaning squatter, and in most of my squatting exercises, doesn't matter whether it's a barbell, a Smith machine, a goblet, I squat very forwards because I've got long femurs. So for me, I tend to feel it in my glutes a lot more, but I know that my quads are still working, but the glutes are kind of what's really going to failure. Other people, it might be a 50-50 split. So when I talk about set number, I'm talking about direct sets. So I'm not talking about, if we're thinking about maybe a bench press, for instance. I am denoting, or I would assign a set, to my triceps. I'm not also going to be assigning anything to my triceps. In fact, I'd probably have a secondary muscle group as my anterior shoulder before I would give any volume to my tricep. I guess you can get really nitpicky about this. My app is very nitpicky. You might see, if you go and look at some of my workouts, it might say over the course of the week, you might have where it says glutes, quads, hamstrings, calves, or what have you. You might often see, 22.5 sets, or, it might be a rounded number. And that is because we have a formula to help assign, the secondary muscle group and the tertiary muscle group. So we've definitely gone into a lot more detail in our exercise library. So some volume will be assigned to, a particular muscle group, even if it is secondary and tertiary, but it has a lesser value. So it's not going to be awarded the same weight as something that is the primary mover. So it's definitely graded and scaled in that way for a reason. But I think, for the person that it's at home, to save you doing all of that math, and it's quite taxing, I would just think about, what is the primary muscle group for you? So, to make it easy, if you're doing squats and you know that you're quite an upright squatter and you feel your quads, just assign the value or the volume to your quads. I wouldn't worry about assigning value to your glutes. I'm thinking about direct sets on those muscle groups. So I hope that makes sense. So if I assign somebody, 15 working sets on their quads, then I'm talking about direct sets where the primary muscle group is is accounting for that set. So I hope that makes sense. You can definitely take that, all the way down and get really granular as my app does. But it becomes a little bit tedious for the person at home. So I think saying direct sets is the most simple way that I can communicate this to you guys. All right. I think that's about it for now. So if you guys have any more questions, please, by all means, leave me a comment in the videos. What else was I going to say? As I've been doing this video, my face is so extremely tight. I was given a new medication for my skin, and I guess the back of the packaging says, use morning and night. So I was like, okay, I'll do it morning and night, but I guess you have to build up your tolerance to this. My skin has been on fire for the last week, to the point where like I have a ring, like all my skin is like flaking off, and it's under my eyes as well. So I'm waiting for like the next few days. I'm totally putting this on Instagram if my under eyelid is peeling. But it's so tight, like it's like pulling my skin. And even just to like take a bite of my sandwich earlier, I was like, oh my God, I can't even stretch my mouth to eat my sandwich. So I don't know if you guys can see it. It's so hilarious. I should have almost done my video check-in without any makeup on, but it's just the worst. But these two products that I'm using, I have been told are excellent for your skin. Because I was having some really bad breakouts. That's all hormonal, I know it, but this just helps kind of keep your skin clear. Oh my God. You can probably see my neck. It's like so red. It's just like burning hot. I have like a wet flannel or a cloth, and I've had an ice pack on my chin just so I stop scratching it. It's so bad. Anyway, I'm definitely distracted. What was I going to say? Okay, be a body, be a brain. Let's talk about those things. We've already chat about Be a Fit, my training app. If you would like to get yourselves a subscription to Be a Fit, head over to the Google Play Store. You can download it there. It's also available on Android and iOS. We did have a couple of bugs over the 4th of July 2-week period. And I was so just disheartened because whatever the issue was, it was unresolved for 2 weeks. And we had a couple of users that were not able to log in. So we have given everybody, credits and subscriptions for free as an apology. I felt terrible, but all of those issues have been resolved. I know that there were a couple of people that were asking about that who follow this channel. So Be a Fit is our new training app. It's got over 50 programs, beginners through to advanced programs. We have cardio workouts, mobility programs, strength and hypertrophy and hybrids. We have the replace exercise feature. So if you don't have a certain piece of equipment that I have prescribed, you can easily go in, find an alternative that will target the same primary muscle group. So it's a very flexible app. You can add in your own. You can change every single exercise if you want to completely make your own programs. You can move exercises to future days in the week. You can move them around if you run out of time. It's really, really flexible. And I'm about to this afternoon put on another program, or at least upload it, and then our app developers will push it to the actual platform. So I have a new, I think it's Miss Bikini Olympia Part 5 that's going to go up in the next week or so. Be a Brain, which is on the screen right now. This is our research review. So we are doing monthly reviews on 4 different research topics in the area of health, nutrition, and exercise science. This current issue that's about to come up, we launch every Thursday on the last Thursday of the month, is so good. I really loved all the topics. We talk about, peanuts versus candy. That was a really fun study. We did another one on swelling and muscle growth and some of the potential misinterpretations in the hypertrophy literature, which is another really interesting topic. We look at lengthened partials, we look at rest periods, and then there's another one as well, which I know is nutrition. It could have been protein and people that are consuming a vegan diet. Like, what's the best way to get the most out of your nutrition and still get really good results as a vegetarian? So I reviewed a study that was looking at different pairings and different combinations of supplements to see what the outcomes were for muscle growth. So some really fun and exciting topics. We also have the Audible. So if you're a busy person, I do not expect you to sit down and like read an article. Like, nobody got time for that. So it's all Audible. There is a nice magazine so that you can read the figures and the tables that are often important to look at. And then coaching. So I'm going to quickly switch over to our coaching team here. If you have considered one-on-one coaching, I would highly recommend reaching out to myself and my team. The girls each have their own areas of interest and are just phenomenal coaches. Each of them have their own coaching pricing, and you can see here there's an option to request a consultation, and they do 15 minutes free just to have a chat with them and learn a little bit more about them, and it gives them an opportunity to find out whether they're a good suit for you as well, based on your goals. So that is our team here at Be Your Body. We would love to work with you. I have some new coaching packages available if anybody is interested. We found a new price point that seems to really work well for everybody's budgets, and it works really well with my time too. It is my light coaching program. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to us. I know that some of the girls are doing that type of coaching as well. And we would love to hear from you. So that's enough promotion and talking about our products and services. I hope you guys have an amazing week ahead, and I will see you in our next update.